Continue. All right. Thank you for joining us again. And you can see my screen, correct, right? Okay. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about Google Classroom. Google Classroom is found in Google. If your child just types in google.com, it's probably likely what comes up when they log into their Chromebook from the school. But when they're logged in, you'll see your students' picture right here with their school photo, and right next to that are these 9 dots. And if you click on those 9 dots, it will bring this drop-down menu, and you'll see here that Google Classroom that's where they find access to their classroom. Once they click on that, their Google Classroom will look like this, with cards set up for each of their classes that identifies the class and the teacher and the period. Now, your student can manipulate their classes. I like going into Google Classroom with the card view because the students can manipulate these classes. These move and they can order them in whatever way they want. I highly recommend that from left to right, top to bottom, they order them in homeroom, first period, second, third, just so it's easier to find, and it makes it a lot easier for you to know what they have. And like I said, teachers will also have their names and what class it is. I understand sometimes you may know the teacher and you may know the class, but it's easier for you in Google Classroom if you can match those up and what period they have each of those teachers. Now, Google Classroom is also organized by this tab of 3 lines over here in a list version, but I like it like this because, like I said, it's manipulative. Now, you can also find a calendar on Google Classroom. And as long as your child has selected all classes in this drop-down, all of the assignments for every single one of their classes appears in calendar form. So you see today of the classes that I'm a participant in, these are the 4 assignments that I had due today. So that's a nice little resource for you to check quickly what your child has. When we go over Google Classroom in the next slide, you'll see where the teachers put in the due dates, and that will appear then. Once a due date is submitted, it will appear on your child's calendar when things are due. Okay, so moving on, let's talk about how a child submits work from Google Classroom.
So what I'd like to show you is how to help your students turn in their work and make sure that it is turned in correctly. So you're going to go over here to classwork, and all of your students' classwork will be listed. If it has a colorful icon, it has not been turned in yet. If it has a grayed out icon, it has been turned in. You can also click on view your work to see all of your students' assignments, the ones that are assigned and the ones that are turned in. Some teachers organize these by subject or by topic, but you'll see that there's a due date over here. And when you click on the assignment, it gives you some information. It says, watch this video and then complete the attached document. Most of the time, these things that are linked right here are the resources that your student needs to use or the actual assignment. And when you click on view assignment, it opens up into a much bigger thing. When students are ready to turn it in, they are going to actually hit the turn in button. Before they do that, though, they're going to want to click right here where it says your work. Now, sometimes the teacher will already have put your work right here. Sometimes you might need to click add or create to add a Google Doc or a Google slide or even a link or a file if you took a picture of something. So if there is something here, you're going to want to open it up. Your student is going to do their assignment on this document. And this is already shared with the teacher. It already has your student's name on it. So they would do their work right here. 3 things you like about cats. I would do that. And then I would come over here and I would click turn in. Now, one thing, after you turn it in, you cannot make any changes to the document. So you would need to unsubmit if you needed to make changes. And when you're checking on your students to make sure that they've turned in their assignment, you also want to check on the attachment and make sure it's not blank. So when I click on that, it opens up and I would notice, oh, wait, you turned it in, but you didn't actually answer the questions. So let's unsubmit it and go ahead and answer these questions. And you could unsubmit and do that. So you want to check to make sure that it's turned in, make sure that there's an actual attachment there, whether the teacher put it there or not. If you need to add or create one, you see how many points it's worth, when it's due. And then of course you can always go back to the class and find that again under classwork. So that's how you can help your students submit assignments, and also how you can check to make sure that the assignments they submitted are done correctly or are attached correctly.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith, and you're going to hear from her again in a few minutes. But before that, I'd like to reintroduce Dr. Caton, who will go over Edgenuity.
So I'm just going to take a brief dive into Edgenuity, letting you know what it is and what it looks like, some of its features. Edgenuity is our digital platform for online learning. Essentially, this is where the majority of our digital resources comes from for our teachers. There is a collection of instructional videos for each class. There is student reading for each class. There are checks for understanding and quizzes that the teachers are utilizing. They've had an opportunity to rearrange these courses at the beginning of the year to better fit the Northgate curriculum that we are more used to. NOLA students in Edgenuity move through the courses at their own pace, while all of our other students are completing work as directed by their teachers. This is usually done through Google Classroom. And there are a number of tools to assist students in their learning that are built into Edgenuity, and I'm going to go over a handful of those in just a couple of minutes. Right now, I'm going to jump in and share my screen with you and take you into Edgenuity. So you should be able to see my screen now, and what you're looking at is the landing page. So these are the class cards, just like you have class cards in Google Classroom. I'm going to jump into a 9th grade biology class right now and show you the setup of one of these courses. These are organized by unit, just like our regular curriculum is. And within these units, there are chunks of instruction built around an instructional day, essentially, that takes about 45 minutes to an hour to complete. These are built around videos and checks for understanding. The students can watch the video where an instructor talks to them and explains the concepts. As they're working with the instruction, there is a pull-out bar on the side here where students can take notes. They can reference the glossary for any terms that might be introduced in this unit. They can also read along with a transcript or go back into the transcript later to pick up anything that they might have missed. These transcripts are available not only in English, but also in Spanish and a number of other languages to assist our English language learning students. So additionally, inside these courses, there are assignments that students and teachers can use to check for the understanding of these lessons. Within the assignments, there's both short answer and multiple choice questions. And after the assignment is complete, the student can move on to take a quiz to complete that section. These quizzes are timed, and so it really pushes students to recall what they've learned rather than seeking for the answers. Seeking for the answers is completely allowed during the assignments. So they can refer back to their notes and the lesson itself just to make sure that they know what they need to know for this section. So that is a quick dive into the Edgenuity resource. If you have any questions about Edgenuity, I'd be happy to take them now. If not, we'll move right along.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Caton. We'll go back to the next section, which Mr. Talbert will talk about setting up your parent portal.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Gallagher. And your your screen is coming up. So the district has created a parent portal that can be utilized by parents to gain access to their child's grades and attendance online. Setting up a parent account allows you to view information for one or more students with a single sign-in. If you do not already have your parent portal information, or if you have not already set up your parent portal account, you can contact the guidance department. Mrs. Gallagher, Mrs. Burns, or I can get you your login information. We can either email it to you or drop it in the mail so that you have it and can set up your account. Once you receive your information, you will go to this web page, which is also listed on the instruction sheet that we'll mail out to you. It is northgatesd.powerschool.com/public. You will click on Create Account. Once you've clicked the Create Account tab, you will be taken to the Create Your Account page, where you will enter your information, first and last name, email address, and a username that you've created. We encourage you to use a username such as your first and last name. Don't get anything elaborate. And then using the passwords, or the password that we give you on the sheet, to set up your account. Once you have set up your account, then you can go ahead and start linking your students' accounts to yours. And that, you'll just scroll down a little further. We're actually going to show you a separate page, but you would scroll down to the section that looks like the page that you're currently seeing. On this page, you will enter your student's name, the access ID that is on your instruction sheet, and the access password that's on your instruction sheet. And then you will indicate your relationship to the student. The list is fairly comprehensive, so obviously parents, mother, father. You can do siblings, cousins, aunts. It's, like I said, it's a fairly comprehensive list. If for some reason after you set up your account, you should forget your ID and password, you can use the Forgot ID and Password feature on the home page to recover it. If for some reason that does not work, you can always contact the guidance department. We can contact our IT department and have your password reset. We do not have access to your IDs and to your passwords. Once you set it up, once you've changed it, we can no longer see it. So the only option that you have is to use the recover feature, or have us reset it. Another nice feature about this program is once you've set it up, you can download an app to your cell phone, and you'll have access to your students' accounts on your phone. There is a district ID that is listed on the instruction sheet that we send out. It works on both Android and the Apple devices. The information it's identical to what you would see on a PC or any form of desktop computer, so that you have access to them no matter where you are in the country or the world, for that matter. One of the nice features about this program is that you can set it up so that anytime a teacher changes or makes a change to your child's grades, you can receive a notification. You can have it set up so that every time that happens, you get notified. You can set it up so that you're notified once a day, or that you're notified once a week. You can actually, if you would like to, you can set it up so that it notifies you hourly. But you can always have access to your students' grades, and you'll always know when something is turned in or when the grade has changed. For those of you who are on this call, do you already have your IDs and passwords, or do you have your account set up? You can just do thumbs up or great. Are you using it on your cell phones? Wonderful. Okay, that concludes this section, and I will turn things back over to Mrs. Gallagher.
Mrs. Smith is actually going to talk now and tell you some things that we expect from our virtual learners. It's important that kids plan to attend class from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. with scheduled breaks, of course. We have a full day of instruction planned. You can set alarms or reminders for when classes start. Alexa often reminds me that it's my kids' time to start school. Have all of your materials with you when you're online. The students should. Remove all distractions from the learning area, phones, gaming systems, all of that. It's helpful if it's nowhere near the students when they're in class. Make sure that they turn on their cameras so that they can participate in discussions, so that the teacher can read their facial expressions and knows when they're, catching on or when they're falling behind. Check their email regularly. The guidance department and myself send out a lot of emails with information about events that are coming up, things like that. So it's important that the students are checking their school email. They want to make sure they're completing homework assignments on time. It's very easy to fall behind. And then most importantly, in my opinion, is go to morning office hours. All of the teachers have 45 minutes where they are online waiting for students to come and ask questions. And I think that teachers are really the most empathetic and helpful humans on the planet, but they're even more helpful and empathetic when they have a relationship with a student. So even if your student is not confused, even if your student is not struggling, have them go to morning office hours every once in a while just to build those relationships with their teachers. And that will really help, help them emotionally and also help if they do happen to struggle or need something. So those are some tips and expectations that we have of the virtual learners. Were there any questions about any of those things or even the Google Classroom stuff that I covered earlier? Okay, excellent.
Hi everyone, my name is Mrs. Black and I'm going to be going over some executive functioning tips. But first I want to go over what executive functioning is. Basically, these are a set of skills that can kind of be thought of as the air traffic control center of your brain. These are a bunch of skills that go together to execute tasks. It basically helps you take an idea from start to finish. This could involve cleaning your bedroom, taking all the steps that you need to get accepted into college, or just tackling your Edgenuity assignments for the day. So I'm going to go over each one of these skills very briefly, and then we'll go into some steps in how to support a couple of these skills. Our first one is response inhibition. This is your capacity to think before acting and resist the urge to say or do something. This also allows you to kind of take some time to evaluate a situation and see how a behavior that you're thinking about engaging in might affect it or not. The next one is working memory, and this is just your ability to hold information in your mind while you're performing a complex task. It also incorporates your ability to kind of pull from and draw upon past learning experiences and apply that to the situation at hand or situations in the future. Our next one is sustained attention, which really seems to be a struggle for some learners right now in the virtual setting, just because we are learning from a computer and it's a little bit different than the typical environment. But this is your capacity to maintain your attention to the situation or task at hand in spite of distractibility, or if you're tired, or if it's boring to you. The next one is task initiation. This is just your ability to begin projects without procrastinating and getting things done in an efficient and timely manner. Then we have planning or prioritizing. This would be your ability to create a roadmap to reach a goal or to complete a task. It also involves being able to make decisions about what steps are important versus those that might be less important, that you don't need to focus as much on. And then with that, we have organizing, your ability to create and maintain systems to keep track of your information or your materials. Then we have time management, your ability to estimate how much time you have, how to allocate it, and how to stay within your time limits and deadlines. And it also involves the person's sense and reference that time is important. And we have goal setting, your capacity to have a goal, follow through to the completion of the goal, and then not be put off or distracted by any variables that are kind of getting in your way of that. Flexibility is a big one during the pandemic. This is just your ability to revise plans in the face of an obstacle, a setback, a new information that might come in, or a mistake that you've made. It also relates to adapting to changing conditions, which the students have certainly had to, be adaptable in this time. Our second to last one here is emotional control. This is your ability to regulate from one emotion to the next in a manner that's socially tolerable and flexible and acceptable. And our last one is metacognition. This is your ability to kind of stand back and take a bird's eye view of yourself in a situation. It's kind of like looking at how you are problem solving through something. It can include your ability to self-monitor how things are going and then self-evaluate. You might, if you're using metacognition, you might ask yourself, how am I doing? How did I do it? What should I be doing differently, or what's not working for me? So those are all the executive functioning skills in a nutshell. So learning online obviously requires us to have, strong skills in these areas, which a lot of our kids might be lacking in right now, which is okay. These skills take a lot of time to develop, and research has shown that it can take up to 30 years for these skills to fully develop for us. So let's get into a couple of strategies that we can use to help support our virtual learners. I have 4 different strategies that are very, very basic and simple, and they can be kind of molded and individualized based on your students' needs. My first one is to utilize the to-do list. This is a feature on the Google Suite. So if you were to log into your student's Google Calendar, you would see these 3 icons to the right of the screen. And if you would click that middle one, that will actually bring up a task list. And then on the task list, the students can add tasks that they have to do. So for example, I put a couple sample ones up here. Ask Miss Black about a reading assignment. I need to complete my social studies quiz by Friday, record and upload a video for science, and then a math assignment due by the end of the day. So as the students finish these, they can check them off. Whenever they actually check them off on the task list, they will disappear. So once all of that is done or gone, the students will know that they've completed everything that they need to. They can do this. They could do like a weekly task list or a daily task list just to try to keep themselves on track. The second tip that I have is for that executive functioning skill, which would be sustained attention. And this tip is to use a self-management system. This could be done by the parent or individually by the student, just depending on their skill level. But for example, you might set a timer to go off every 5 minutes or 15 minutes, depending on the student's attention span to begin with. So whenever that timer would go off, the student would have to reflect and say, am I on task or off task? Or the parent or whoever's with them helping them could, help the student evaluate for themselves and say, were you on task or were you off task? If they were on task, they could have verbal praise or some kind of token. If they were off task, they could have redirection or just self-reflect. Oh my gosh, I was off task. Let me get back to what I needed to be doing at the time. So depending on your child's needs, this is one of those recommendations that can really be molded to what would benefit your student the most. So for example, if you wanted to set up like a token system where if they earn a token every time they are on task, they could earn something at the end of the day. Similarly, if they needed a longer period of time, you could have them earn something at the end of the week. So some students may be able to wait a little bit longer till the end of the week. Other students might need reinforcement on like a daily basis with this tip. So that's the self-management technique in a nutshell. My third recommendation would be to utilize the Google Calendar feature that comes with the Google Suite. So I would encourage the students to use this. They can map out their schedule for the day. In Google Calendar, you're able to reference your invitations to your live classroom sessions. And then you can also schedule time in there to complete like their asynchronous work if they have that time available. And then I would encourage them to try to color code things to facilitate organization and then help them discriminate between events. So on this next slide, I have an example of what their Google Calendar might look like for one day. So in this example, I color coded the live or synchronous classes in that yellowish orange color, and then I color coded the asynchronous time in pink. The lunch is purple, and then at the bottom, I have a meeting with my teacher, and I made that one in blue. So the color coding can help you differentiate between what types of tasks you are doing. So live versus asynchronous versus a meeting with your teacher or lunch. And I feel like that helps keep kids more aware of things that might change in their schedule too. So if you put that meeting with your teacher in blue or red at the end of the day, it kind of draws your attention to it because it's different. And I think you should use a bolder color for something that might not typically show up in your schedule, just to help bring your attention to it, to help you or help prevent you from forgetting it. In the instance that something does slip your mind, Google Calendar allows you to set notifications for yourself. You can set these notifications, for example, maybe every 10 minutes before or 5 minutes before your event is going to occur. So if you're on your computer, it will look similar to something that just popped up on our PowerPoint slide here. So if you're working on asynchronous work, you're typing and you see that come up on your computer, you know that in about 10 minutes you need to wrap it up because your live session's starting. If your student has an iPad that they're using or their phone, they can download the Google Calendar onto that device too. And these alerts will go to their phone or their tablet too. So if they're at lunch or they're taking a break and their phone goes off, it could be an alert for their live session starting in 10 minutes. So it's just a nice way to keep yourself on track and organized with your time management and helping you arrive to class on time so that you're not missing anything. I really like and recommend the Google Calendar feature because it's almost like an external executive functioning system for students that might have difficulty with these skills to begin with. So it's kind of an external support that's going to help keep them on track. The last tip that I had was for parents to implement for their students. If you have a student who isn't really intrinsically motivated to complete the work, and they might do a little bit better with extrinsic motivation. So for this, I recommended trying to contrive a contingency for them or using a first then statement. So for example, you could say, first the student needs to complete their live math lesson, and then you can have a 5-minute break on your phone or take a 5-minute break to play outside or whatever the reinforcing activity may be for them. Similarly, some students might not need reinforcement on that frequent of a basis, like for every class. You could use like the entire school day. So first you need to get through all of your schoolwork and show me that you've completed it, and then you can have time for your Xbox. But the contingency there would be that you only gain access to that reinforcing activity if all of your schoolwork was done or if you engaged in that live math lesson for that time. So they kind of have to engage in that behavior in order to come in contact with that reinforcement or that special activity that they are working towards. So different students are going to have different motivational needs. Like I said, some students may respond well to that whole school day being the first in that first then statement. Other students might need the first statement to be your math class, and then your reading class, and then you can earn reinforcement, and then the next class, and then reinforcement. So it just depends on the needs, and either need is okay. These things are flexible and can be molded to your students' needs. The last slide I have here is just a wrap up and a conclusion. It's really important to have these executive functioning skills working and intact for our students, but also don't panic if your student is struggling with them, because remember, it can take up to 30 years. So I'm still personally working on my EF skills. But for our middle school and high school students, I thought some of these things they might be able to work on together. If you do have a student that likes to organize, maybe pair them with one of their friends that isn't so much into organizing. They could work on setting up their calendars together, or they could work together on setting their task lists up together if they have the same classes with a friend. Parents could also try to use their peers as reinforcement. So if you were, having trouble getting your student to engage in the lessons, and you could say, maybe after school, we will set up a Zoom meeting with your friend if you can get through all of these tasks today. So that way they're getting some social reinforcement too. They have something to work towards. Similarly, I thought parents could set up a social distancing reward for their kids, make sure everything is safe and in line with the CDC guidelines. But if, the two students engaged with their lessons for the day, completed all their work, perhaps they could go on a social distance trip to the park or to Target or something like that. So that was executive functioning kind of in a nutshell, with some very broad strategies. If you feel that your student needs help with that, you can always reach out to me. We can try to come up with an individualized plan for your student, or I can meet with them to help set up some of these things in their calendar. If you feel like they need something a little bit more intense or more support with this, we can also come up with something a little bit more creative with them too. But feel free to reach out to me, your teachers, the counselors. We can work as a team to set something up for your kiddo to find something to help them.
Hi, I'm Liz Lepore. I'm the Student Assistant Liaison, and if you're not aware of what Student Assistant is it's just another wonderful support that the school district offers. If you feel like there are any barriers, educational barriers for your student, you can reach out to either the nurse or the counselors or teachers or administration and ask if your student could be part of the student assistance program. We're going to go over the signs and stress in teens. There are so many different ways that signs come out, but I'm just going to cover a few. Increased irritability, edgy, overreacting, and that's kind of a behavior you see with a lot of teenagers regardless of a pandemic. However, it seems to be intensified right now. Headaches, stomach aches, frequent illnesses and or ailments, like complaining a lot of not feeling well, but don't have any real specific description. Sleep issues, they may get too much sleep or not enough sleep or interrupted sleep. Dramatic changes in grades, attendance, or lack of motivation. Lying, you might have your students might be lying to you. I'm hearing that a lot from parents these days. Withdrawing from family and or friends, acting aggressively, defying authority, saying they don't want to attend school, loss of interest in favorite activities, finding it difficult to make or keep friends, experiencing a sudden drop in grades, or just refusing to participate and or complete work assignments. Also, difficulty concentrating or they're off task, excessive worrying, and also negative self-talk or giving up hope. Next slide, please. These are just tips on helping your child cope with stress. Have a set routine or a schedule. That's really important. Great way to start the day and just stay focused on where you should be for your day. Remove any distractions. Have an organized workspace. This looks different for everybody, and it's just a specific area in your home that your student can do their schoolwork at. They could have a desk or a corner of the counter, even if it's on the couch. I mean, it just has to be somewhere that's a designated work area. I think it's really important to have that. Schedule breaks throughout the day, and also you could play music, or if it's calming, if it's not a distraction, that might be very comforting for the student. Get appropriate amount of sleep. This age range, they say that 7 to 8 hours is the appropriate amount, but everybody is different once again. Utilize your sensory refocus. So you can use your 5 senses. Have them do things that they can see, hear, smell, feel, and taste. And you want to keep those senses positive. You want to have them taste things that are comforting. You want to have them smell things that smell good and positive. We're trying to keep the kids more relaxed and reduce the stress. Next slide. We need to So right now we need to social distance. However, that does not mean socially isolating. And it's really important to, have them stay connected with not only their peers, but their teachers as well in their community. And also, not only that, but staying connected in a positive fashion. A lot of kids use social media. It can be a great tool if it's used correctly, but try to really influence the kids to keep it positive. We need to be creative to stay connected. You could do Zooms. You could have the kids do crafts. Like if you have kids that have similar interests, they could work on, I know kids that are doing Zoom game parties. They're working on the same game. They're making the same moves, but they're doing it virtually outside of video games. They just surround yourself with peers that have similar interests. Have the kids step out of their comfort zone, do positive things, show gratitude. It's really important for the kids to show gratitude. They could journal like things that they're thankful for, because there are good things that are going on, even though we're in the midst of a pandemic. Tell people, encourage your students to tell people positive things about them, things that they've done, and encourage others. Sometimes, there's something good comes from everything. And I know we're in the midst of a pandemic, but good things can come from this. We're all growing through this, and we're growing through it together. Sit with your children or your students. Talk about things that are less stressful, like TV shows or movies that you might have an interest in, or books that they've read, or books that you would recommend to them. Ask your students about their physical and emotional needs. It's really important to know what their needs are so you can meet them. Staying emotionally safe is very important during this difficult time. Go for walks, get fresh air, just take breaks. Ask for help with dinner, cleaning the house, folding clothes, just any general chores. Pull the kids into it. Ask them, give them some responsibility and accountability. And schedule regular times to interact with their friends. So, like I said, social virtual gatherings are really, really important this time. Play a game, do a craft, be creative. And this can be in your own household. Write music. Kids can learn how to play an instrument. Kids can learn how to speak another language. Write a story or journal. Also, one of the activities I strongly promote is dream boards or dream journals, meaning like cut out fun pictures, places you want to travel to, things you want to do. Put them on a dream board, because then they have a visual and gives them hope and motivation to work towards. And also, some kids like to keep them in a journal, so then they can just have it in a hand. They can flip through their pages, and they can also write gratitude statements, just to kind of retrain their brain to have a more positive outlook. Encourage them to get out of themselves. Shift focus on helping others. Like, for example, go out and shovel the next door neighbor's driveway. Help an elderly person carry their groceries in. Just being helpful. Encourage them to do that, because it makes you feel good. And also, it's really important to break down tasks into small pieces, just so the kids don't feel overwhelmed. And it's really important to encourage that. The small task pieces, it really will make the larger task easier. This is a time, write your own pandemic story. We're all living in it, and you can make it a good one. You can try to embrace all the positives. We're in the midst of this, and it's a time that is marking history. So let's embrace the positive, let go of the negative, and let's all grow through this together. We're all in this storm together. However, we're all in different boats. And how you maintain your boat and keep your boat fueled and stocked is up to you. And as a parent, it's up to us to encourage our kids to also have accountability for this. And it will strengthen their way of how they're going to get through this storm and weather it and get through it together. Good luck, and keep up the good work.
Good evening, everybody. It's Nurse Miss. I am going to do some virtual resources for the students. It's a break from learning. They're fun teen resources. And social distancing does not mean social isolation. Connections build resilience, which is the ability to mentally or emotionally cope with any crisis. We are stronger together. The following links have different games and activities specifically designed for students in grades 7 through 12. Our first one we'll start with is if they enjoy poetry, comedy, yoga, bingo, baking, much more. If you want to click on that, Mrs. Gallagher, it brings us to this site, which is popular online events. And you can scroll down. They change monthly. And as you see, there's some with baking, there's some with dance, there's some with yoga, meditation, comedy. So there's a whole mix in there. And like I said, those are free online. The second one I have shared with you, if you're looking for a new hobby or some added benefits of physical activity, you'll want to visit Pittsburgh Karate. It's a martial arts studio in Pittsburgh. And this goes for any new hobby that you would like to learn. All you would have to do is Google what you're interested in and put virtual in Pittsburgh with that, and that normally will bring up a studio. The next one I have shared with you is some upcoming events at the Allegheny County Libraries. They include Scramble, Mysteries, STEM, fun games, and much more. They're all local libraries, and they're all online. The fourth one is Zoom Youth Group Games, and it's just a suggestion of games to play for your group. So you would go in and you would pick a group, and then you would pick some activities. Also new to the list is the Carnegie Library. If you want to click on that, Mrs. Gallagher, this provides online tutoring. It's a fantastic, there it is, website. You will need a library card, but it is super, super easy to get. They give you a step-by-step direction on how to obtain that. Again, that's for tutoring, and there's some local. And then the next one, I'm sorry, was the Zoom. And then the last one on that page is Just Press Pause. Jed, along with Pink, chose these teens to help with stress. And what they do is they present some breathing and movement exercises by other teens. If you want to just click on that, Mrs. Gallagher. And you can move from instructor to instructor, whoever you feel comfortable with. But they're short, online, YouTube.
Hi, my name is Lucas, and my pronouns are he, him, his, and I'm here to help you press pause for a minute and teach you a breath practice that is very grounding and calming. This breath helps slow things down. We're slightly constricting the back of our throats to create a breath with sound and breathing in and out the nose only. To practice, you can inhale through your nose and exhale open mouth side out.
And if you just click down here, and that moves through different students.
Hello, humans. My name is Channing Notatum, and I want to share with you a quick little self-care tool that I like to come to anytime I am super anxious. It helps bring me back to a balanced state of being. It is a...
And those are some great breathing exercises and movement, like I said. On the next page, you will find Northgate's online library tool. I don't know if you guys were aware. This was a new website. And if you want to pull that up real quick. And all you need is your Google account. And that you can access books, magazines, news, all of that. And again, that's free. You do not need a library card for that. Number 8 and the final is Psychology Today. It's for teens 14 through 19. There are support groups in Pittsburgh's. Some of the groups are Self-Esteem, Teen Girls, Girl Talk, LQBTQIA. And those, like I said, are just support groups. There is a cost involved in some of the groups. So don't let that not allow you to go on the site, because there's only some of the groups. And then for you parents and guardians, these are available for added support for parents and guardians, sharing ideas and helpful hints to get us through today. The first one is for medical and mental health.
Mrs. Mizikowski, you muted yourself by accident.
Sorry about that, guys. This is the community resources. It's for added mental health supports and crisis situations. So if you scroll down, Mrs. Gallagher, you'll see Resolve, you'll see behavioral care, Allegheny Health Department, and the like. And those are helpful. The second one I chose to put up there is for teens and young adult programs available in Allegheny County. There are human resources or to report abuse. And then the final one is find food assistance, help paying bills, and other free or reduced cost programs. Those are locally, and they're brought up by zip codes. So you just click on that, put your zip code in, and that shows you what programs we have in the area. Thank you all.
And thank you all for coming tonight. There's going to be some follow-up meetings, similar but not quite as comprehensive as this one, and a little more personal with Dr. Johns and Dr. Caton. So if one of you want to kind of explain about these meetings that are on this slide.
Sure. So you can go ahead and find more information about these upcoming meetings with Dr. Johns and myself at northgatesd.net. You can also contact Laureen Dowd at the administration building for a chance to RSVP for these. We want to keep them kind of small so that we can have a more discussion-based meeting. And these are just like the meetings that have happened in past years with Dr. John's sort of coffees with Caroline in the past. So these are the virtual versions of those for this year.
And we have a flyer that we're working on. We're just finalizing it now. So we'll post it on Facebook and it'll be on our website shortly.
And that's all we have for you. Does anybody have any questions of anybody on the panel this evening?
Thank you all.
Thank you all. I know there were some questions answered in the chat, so you might want to look through those. If you have any follow-up questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to any one of us, and we'll be happy to help. This recording will be posted for all parents to access, as well as all of those links that Nurse Mizikowski shared. We can post those on our website, I believe, and we can also send them directly to you in an email. If you prefer, just email Mr. Talbert or myself or Ms. Mizikowski, and we will get them to you. Thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Great job, everyone.
Yes. Whoop, whoop. Boom, boom, boom.
Good job. Got it all done.